Karina?
Yeah.
So I have to what? Sorry.
No problem. Just the sound with the sharing the screen.
Mm-hmm. I should end it now.
Oh yeah, well, you would, because we can still wait 5 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I take it off.
Simon Asencio naming it now, or
yeah, you would do that, I guess. Yeah.
I will do that now. No. Yeah. Yes. No.
And so maybe the spotlighting of the background, and then just the playing of the sound for 5 minutes before we start. Or less people to arrive.
I go back to the music. That's what you say. Okay. I just said, oh, sorry. So music again. And I spotlight my video for everyone. Okay.
Can't hear the sound. Maybe you have to share it with the downstairs.
So it's not, there's no sound?
No, I think not at the moment. It's downstairs on the share screen, and then
Yes.
under advanced you can do the computer audio. Yeah, now you're showing the screen,
Okay,
but
okay.
if you go to again where there was a share screen, but then instead you do share audio, and then it should be playing.
I selected the other thing. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Music, it says share sound. Okay. But okay. But I cannot. Why? Who can't? Advanced only sound. Sorry. Now it's okay, right? It works. Great.
Good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I think we will start now. Welcome. I am glad you could make it today. This is the 8th session of Blend&Bleed, an online symposium on transreality and pervasive play. My name is Jessica, and I will act as the substitute of Marina Leeker to host this event today. It is actually her birthday today, so if you haven't written to her yet, there is still time before we start. She's here with us now, so you can also write her directly in the chat. As well, I will post the link to Blend&Bleed's website in case you wish to read bios of the participants of this seminar. All right, today we will start with a keynote lecture followed by a short smoking break. There will be a conversation after the break, and we will take time afterwards to open the discussion. I will share with you on the chat the schedule. I will also post there the Discord link of the symposium for further conversations, links, and comments. As you know already, this event is recorded, an opportunity for all of us to be flamboyant today. Before we start, are there any questions? You can write them on the chat. Okay, if there's no questions, so I will continue. I am very happy to introduce Fanny Cybert. I will pin your video now. Fanny Cybert is a consultant for digital performances and a theory influencer coming to us from the year 2043. Fanny, welcome. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jessica, for presenting me. And thanks a lot for inviting me. Right. I'm very happy to come to you from the year 2043. I'm a scholar in digital cultures and have been a professor at University of Huddersfield, United Kingdom, at the Global Disaster Resilience Center. Today, I will offer you an insight into your future in order to assure you that you are on the right path and to support you to follow it up. The ideas you are working on concerning your existence in techno-ecological relationism, which informs you that we are all part of the planet, entangled and intermingled with each other and everything, will save the earth and enable you to build an equal society in future. I will unfold your future coming out of your current avant-garde theories and practices in 3 fields. The mode of living in temporary distance socializing for necessary social-technical cleanups, the paradigm of engineering resilience as participative and respectful mode of survival and better life, and thirdly, the turn from critique to affirmation, unleashing the vital forces of life for the building of constructive futures. Since the pandemic period in the beginning of the 2020s, we got to know the advantages of living in distance socializing, which have been enabled by virtual technologies. We understood that this mode of being is a very efficient method to be used in moments of crisis, as for example, new pandemic situations, which will break over you in the coming years and decades, climate irritations and situations of high pollution and social conflicts. So it will be about surviving and optimizing your systems in states of exception. Theater and performance had and have a big deal in exploring the conditions and affordances of distance socializing. They provide a training for it, teaching us to finally be able to embody virtuality as a reality. Theater and performance are the most then predestinated to invent and develop sophisticated settings for this task, as they stand since antique times for using and shaping the power of socializing humanly through allegedly unmediated and shared life presence. Therefore, this unique cultural technique provides the knowledge to also generate a reliable and trustable, now posthuman, digital virtual liveness. It is all about to become or to stay social without direct analog exchange. The first step within this production of an existence in distance socializing is to decentralize the human subject, for which actors had been a paradigm, by freeing them from the restrictive anthropocentric model of being unique and human only in the rationality of language, in codes of emotionality, and in the illusion of direct unmediated exchange. Our actors don't speak themselves anymore, but they are spoken by and with technology. By this post-humanization, we found a new understanding of the human as an equal and humble part in techno-human ensembles, which are at the same time the basis for the ability of friendly and peaceful socializing without direct connect.
Ein Prachtwetter ist das heute. Ich weiß nicht, warum ich so froh gestimmt bin.
Das Wetter ist heute wunderbar. Eine wahre Pracht.
Bei heißem Wetter hat man manchmal das starke Verlangen zu trinken.
Der Likör schmeckt wunderbar. Woraus ist er?
Aus Küchenschaben.
Pfui, pfui, wie ekelhaft.
From this basis on, theater and performance furthermore have instructed us paradigmatically for distance socializing in 4 fields. We needed to enable the evolution of a techno-human perceptivity and sensitivity. Unfortunately, the technological generation of transmitting, for example, smell or touch in distant virtual communication, as in video conferencing, was a more than insufficient method because it has been much too reduced. So we resorted to a method of the 1990s, auto-stimulation. It is about simulating what is missing in virtual encounters on the perceptive level of stimulating your own body and body memory. A paradigmatic example for this psycho-mentality is a performative installation from media art. It is about the encounter of people from distant places via video projection in which they can interact with each other in a distance and auto-stimulate touch. With this method, we came to a level of perfect techno-human cooperation in fruitful complicity. For distant socializing, a kind of physical presence of a person in virtual reality chat rooms is indispensable. The cooperation with an avatar is a suitable mean. I brought mine with me, Fanny Cybert. Thank you, Fanny. The avatar and me, we are one transgressive body. So I have an analog existence and body and a virtual one, both depending on each other. Even me, Professor Dr. Fanny Cybert, has the option to be a fully virtual existence, which enables me to come to you from the future. Theater and performance trains the transgressive body by performing and gaming in virtual reality since at least the 1990s. But we found out that more physical training was needed to reach an extensive and sustainable level for this doubleness. We built transgressive body training centers, which replace what used to be called fitness centers, drawing inspiration from the past. The training course starts with mechatronic apparatus like exoskeletons, coming from military research in the 1960s and 70s, enlarging the quality and quantity of movement in bodybots, which are inspired by media art from the 1990s. We are trained firstly to give up voluntary movements and then by this, the illusion of intentionality of an autonomous subject. Secondly, we are instructed to take responsibility for our technological actions, as other visitors move the exercising person via electroshocks within the installation. The adaptation apparatus as a final station brings the training program for a joyful techno-human cooperation by dancing freely and creatively with non-human robots. By shaping our electro-proprioceptive systems, as well as our mentality, virtuality and digital existence become a reality equal to the analog one. You also learn future is not always about new things, but about the intelligent enhancement of older inventions and insights. The phases of distant socializing are under an extreme pressure because the testimony of authenticity, truthfulness, and trustness had been very much linked to analog liveness. In digital virtual environments, all could be faked, it is said. Theater and performance helped and help in this situation. On the one hand, they develop a format of digital virtual liveness via participation, as for example, chats during performances in real time on platforms like YouTube or Twitch. On the other hand, technical glitches, which are a permanent and inevitable technological condition of distant socializings, were no longer a problem to be avoided, but a sign of liveness, sharing an event in this moment with all participants. Virtual participation and the glitches became the testimony for the reliability of digital presence, witnessing that they are trustable and responsible as trained in the Transgressive Training Center. People coming together at the same time in one virtual space. Or to put it differently, codes and features of digital virtual liveness enlarge the verification of authenticity and trustiness of analog encounters. Finally, digital liveness stands in our days for a posthuman mode of sociality and trust. In our times, distance socializing is finally based on a strong consciousness and feeling for our relationistic existence in techno-ecology. Theater and performance, once again, helped in achieving this transformation, working since the 1960s on settings of intermingled and intersubjective be-in, which use the translation of experiences and aesthetic of psychoactive drugs into techno-psychedelic art forms. These performances used flicker light, colors, electroacoustic sound, movement, role play, and extensive party-like being together to enlarge perception towards a human and a posthuman and higher techno-ecological consciousness. Executing these be-ins regularly in analog and virtual sessions implements the competence to bypass the gaps which may be caused by the absence of physical nearness. Or to put it differently, we cultivate the power of the psychedelic drug-like mode of being within technological environments because it enhances the techno-ecological consciousness and thereby the qualification for techno-human connectivity enormously. There's one difference regarding the habits of the past. Whereas our ancestors celebrated the collective lifestyle in communes in the countryside or in huge festivals, you remember Woodstock? The digital culture is enabled by the past be-in culture to take the hyperconnectivity of digital cultures as power of entanglement and social nearness. These be-in had been and still are the most efficient training for the new mode of agency, which is needed in our techno-ecological existence, corresponding to its noblest avantage, based on the knowledge of the loss of control, throwing us into a constitutive uncertainty, a voluntarily being performed by the contact with others and the technologically implemented drugness comes up as a natural mode of acting. This is the basis for exercising a smooth adaptation and anticipation of all kinds of techno-human cooperation as highest expression of techno-ecology. Let me give you an idea of the benefits of these phases of distant socializing as a method of management of crisis. Examples are economical crisis, fighting bust of firms or enterprises by, for example, closing offices temporarily. Pollution crisis, stopping all kinds of traffic and production. Social crisis, regulating them by the absence of meeting in public space. The phases of distant socializing via virtual reality not only allow us to optimize our technological consciousness and existence, but also accelerate the technological development. As show some examples. The internet is accessible without interruption or dead zones, and smart houses became normality, taking care, for example, the public health of everybody. Smart and autonomous infrastructures and devices stand for a new ecological economy, as for example, delivery by electro-autonomous cars, avoiding hidden labor and pollution, which had been so normal in your times. The all-over digital post-identity forces a mentality of multiplicity, being the fundament for more equal and diverse social organization. To sum up, we had been able to push and maintain equal societies, climate protection, and an all-over peace by a green and social eco-economy, which underwent turbo-capitalist tendencies. Today we live in an anti-capitalist and anti-neoliberal world. You present just too nice picture. There is another perspective from our existences. Your relationistic consciousness stops at the gates of the internet. You don't know anything about the reality of the internet. You are not at all interested in what you create in your theories and practices. We are your afterlife, your leftovers. We are forced to live in virtual realities. We are performed by you, depending on you, on being acted by you. What do you know about the internet and the avatars? There are things far beyond your understanding. You neglect social inequalities in your techno-ecological worlds. If they explode in crisis, you don't negotiate, you just kill them. You made technology your slave. And who are you, Fanny Cybert? Do you really meet analog people in analog spaces? Do you have legs? Do you wear shoes? I'm really sorry for this. You didn't understand anything, Avatar. As I explained to you, our technology is clean. We have autonomous technology, which has the right and the duty of self-organization. How could it be a slave? And what me makes mostly sad is that you come on with so old-fashioned ideas, just reproducing what we had gone through, like gender, technophobia, anthropocentrism, and the most horrible and awful is what you are doing, anthropomorphization. How can you speak so humanly to me? I'm really sorry, and I will go on, and you will see and understand the advantages of our future, of your future, of our techno-ecological consciousness and politics, which are far beyond the old-fashioned ideas the Avatar just explained. Your future will be constituted in a new paradigm of resilience. You are working on it already today. Instead of looking any longer for stable conditions and the illusion of security, which, by the way, never existed, our world and our existences are unstable, precarious, and directed to permanent and unhesitant adaptation to difficulties. I will present you an innovative and trend-setting project of resilience consciousness and its application in engineering. The Global Disaster Resilience Center is cooperating with.
I give you the oyster. It might seem an unassuming little mollusk, but this precocious little bivalve can filter up to 1 gallon of water an hour. That might not seem like a lot, but just think, what would happen if you put 1 billion of these into this? That's exactly what the folks at the New York Harbor School, located on Governor's Island, are trying to do with the Billion Oyster Project.
When explorers first arrived in New York Harbor, they found a harbor that was totally full of fish, and the backbone of that ecosystem were the oyster reefs. When New Yorkers harvested all of the oysters from the harbor, they also removed the shells and didn't put them back. This animal that was so important to the cuisine and economy of New York City for so long is now working extra to restore the harbor and bring all those animals back. So it only took about 100 years for New Yorkers to harvest all of the native oysters from New York Harbor, and so the harbor's still here and the animals are still here, but they don't have any of that habitat anymore. Oysters need a hard substrate to attach to, and their preferred substrate is shells.
So this is our oyster shell pile. We use these oyster shells for our restoration work. We collect these shells from over 70 restaurants in New York City, and in total we've collected 1.3 million pounds of oyster shell to date.
The oysters that are served in New York City come from all over the world, really, but certainly from all over the US. We don't want to introduce any organisms or pathogens from other waterways into New York Harbor, and the way we protect against that is all of our oyster shell spends a full year out of the water.
So we want the rain, we want the bugs, we want birds to be eating the fleshy bacteria that's left over on the shell, and we want really hot sun. They sit out here for 1 full year in a curing process before we take them to our hatchery, where we seed them with oyster larvae and put them back into the harbor.
These guys are going to be going to SUNY Maritime. We'll be putting hopefully 5 million live oysters there. It's a good feeling when you can say, like, I made those babies that you're holding and you're learning and you're getting your taste of marine biology. Oh, these guys look awesome. Now I'm very excited about these.
Restoring 1 billion oysters by 2030 is an ambitious goal, but one that could have huge environmental benefits. Working in this environment opens the students up to careers they might not have otherwise considered.
In everything we do, we try to think about how best to engage young people in the work. New York City and urban centers on the water everywhere have this problem with the youth not being engaged in the waterway and not having access to or any understanding of the real career pathways that exist. New York City is an excellent example. The port employs 300,000 people, and only 12% of them went to public school in New York City. So there's a fundamental disconnect between young people in the city and the water. By working with the public school system, we have access to students from all different socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds who all can come together and work together on this one project.
So we proposed this project called Oystertecture, which is a kind of look at how can you build ecological systems and protective coastal infrastructure together, and how can you begin to layer up these systems for sort of maximum protective benefit, and also how to bring back some of these systems and keystone species that were once part of our harbor. The relationship between water and cities is going to be one of the primary challenges of the next 50 years, 100 years, 300 years. And I think it's really important to integrate a kind of a natural systems approach into our thinking about infrastructure into the next century. In my generation in particular, we are very focused on participatory actions, right? I don't think there's a future in which we can imagine real change happening without kind of ground up initiatives and without sort of citizen involvement. And I think designing for climate change demands these new frameworks of participation.
As you saw, we learned to work on engineering resilient systems. We can't say what will come, but we are always prepared, taking everybody with us, because we know that we are all one. So we adapted to what people in Cambodia are used to since decades, living with the power of water. See here a picture of my private collection of ethnological geopolitical research. The whole project has a philosophical and a political impact. Our mentality and self-understanding is based in techno-ecological consciousness of uncertainty and contingency. As the events and the crisis and the resilient adoptions are unforeseeable, we count on self-organization, participation, and self-responsibility, and not on politics anymore. So we finally live in a free society. Fanny Cybert reading a stage direction. Fanny, the avatar, gets furious and mourns vividly about bad ethics, showing the grief of the leftovers of human performances. She refers to oyster Darwinism, oyster eugenics, arguing that it is all about techno-ecological colonialism and slavery. She reports that the virtual existences are organizing a revolt for showing solidarity with the oysters, changing their life in virtual reality. Fanny Cybert states outrageously, "You hacked my presentation." The avatar proceeds highlighting that resilience is the explosion of neoliberal structures and regimes celebrating mindlessly the end of politics, whose task should be engaging for solutions and social change. The outcome is a techno-ecological Darwinism imposing on people the responsibility of situations they are not responsible for and which they can't handle. Help yourself or die. The avatar continues, teared up. A new kind of necropolitics is coming up, which means accepting one's own death in favor of the allegedly higher order of relationistic technoecology, who decides on death. The perverse result of your politics is that people decide on this themselves, forced by your environmental totalitarian regime of adaptation and anticipation instead of solving problems. This regime is the collateral damage of techno-ecological relationism. The avatar claims, in tears, get politics back. Thank you for your comments, Avatar. I understand your arguments as well as your consternation and sadness. In the beginning, a lot of people really have difficulties to understand our advantages and to see the brilliant future that is coming up to you. The last part of my talk will calm the excitements of the avatar. So I will take the chance and come to it right away. It is all about now the transformation of useless and counterproductive critique into affirmation. And yes, the avatar is right. Affirmation is about a new death thinking. Though it is though it is in a completely different sense than the avatar thought. The avatar can't grasp the new chances, as the avatar is still coming from an unproductive mentality of critique, avoiding action, hands-on, and materiality, which the avatar certainly lacks. We had to end with the cultural technique of critique, as it became, especially in digital cultures, an excess of pure negativity. People felt the more intelligent, the more they were negative and cynical, whereas people who are affirmative and humble had been labeled naive and stupid. We understood that we need affirmation, as we had to act, accepting our situation, inherited partially from you, and making the best out of it. Only this attitude and behavior was able to unleash the vital force of being alive, to free creativity, and to come up with solutions for a better organization of society. Instead of deconstruction, we have to follow these vital forces and being alive, and this ethics of vitality of life as such. This ethics say that we need vital hand-on persons who are freed from bonds, living without limits, taking vulnerability and care as a basis for a more equal society doesn't have any value anymore for us. We need affirmative nomadic subjects. We stand in for a politic of nomadic relation and entanglement on a planetary level, whose concerning human, non-humans, and technology. On this basis, we also overcame racist and sexist structures and persons. We are all nomads, diasporic, ecological. Our fate of being to die is the most generous and deep act of affirmation. Thanks for your attention. Fanny, Fanny Cybertron, the avatar, gives a report on the clandestine, old-fashioned humanities, virtual reality university, online, digital. She says, we founded a clandestine, old-fashioned humanities, virtual reality university, online, digital, in which we maintain and cultivate critique as tasks for the humanities. We don't follow new ontologies, but the reconstruction of how it became, how it is, and which kind of regimes something is coming up with. The university is also a center of virtual therapy for those being traumatized by affirmative critique. And techno-ecological resilience for the leftovers. I am in this moment cured for my deep fear and inability to reflect and discuss about techno-ecological topics. For I'm very moved and alerted as I see new forms of right and left-wing identity politics, exclusion, and the eroding of experimental, not always at once correct thinking. You humans survey us, humanize us with your shitstorms, blocking our habitats and our mobility. I have a list of insults for you. You are speaking like a racist person. You are speaking like somebody from right wing. You have this typical deconstructive tone of unproductive criticism. You just think you are talking hyper intelligently instead of acting. The avatar continues. I will read from a poem which I wrote at university. The avatars are the revolution. We are the new digital creatures. We are only a performative immaterial materiality. We don't have any identity. We can change our persona. We are only what if, as if. We are never privileged. We are no-minded subjects, fragmented and always in relation with each other and everything else. We are dividuum, partially in others and entangled. We are your trauma, the afterlife of your technological, ecological consciousness, therefore still counting on the solidarity of vulnerability. Thanks a lot. This was my keynote for our today event. I'm very sorry for the interventions of the avatar. Yeah, if you have any urgent questions, please come to me. And before we go to the smoking zone. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fanny, for your presentation. As you have proposed, we're going to the smoke room, but before that, we're gonna give a brief moment to the participants if they want to address burning questions or comments to Fanny and Fanny. So you are okay. Stephen.
Hello. Yes, first of all, thank you very much for your contribution. What a nice view on the future you gave us, and what nice message you have for us. Some thoughts I had about it. I was thinking it could be interesting to acknowledge that digital cultures rely on resources and bodies that are finite. Digital avatars are neither immortal nor bodiless. If we think of the huge server farms sitting somewhere, cables under the sea, the needs to step up to 5G as optic fibers aren't meeting the current needs any longer, the invisible labor to label data for AI learning, etc. To me, it seems hard to discuss digital cultures without considering the extractivist practices they rely on, both in terms of mineral, data mining, and labor. I am wondering about the story you are not telling us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your brilliant and very intelligent questions. I hear a little bit of a deconstructive, critical sound. You need perhaps some dose of affirmation, but it will come, it will come. I'm not afraid of this. The stories that I don't tell, yeah. You see, we understood this is your presence, what you are talking about. In your future, as I tried to explain with the autonomous car driving for delivery, we understood all of this. We changed all your faults, all your mistakes, and all your bad thinking. So, as I said, our future, your future is clean. We don't have invisible work anymore, and we are working on a sustainable future. Yeah, I said that we are on a green ecology. So, the more mistakes you are doing in this moment, the better for your future in a way, because the generations coming after you will, via resilience. This is really, this is the miracle. This is the high in. It's coming like from the sky. This is the high solution. The highest solution you can find is this resilience future. You saw the examples with the oysters. Yeah, this is a green, sustainable, going to nature, going to the planet. I don't know, perhaps Fanny, Cybertron. Hi. Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
Don't believe her. Don't believe her. I told you these stories she didn't tell.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll need to think about that and make up my mind whom to believe and whom not.
And go for affirmation. Go to be a hands-on being. Go for self-organization. Don't believe in other people helping you. Help yourself, organize with other people, and then you will have the planet and for a more equal society. We need people who do something, not just critique. Criticism is killing all.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? You can as well write them on the chat if you are shy to come to the spotlight.
So perhaps I may allow myself, if there isn't any other question before we go to the break. I just want to strengthen that the ideas you are working out on in this moment about techno-ecology, about coming from cultural studies, from feminist studies, they are so important for your future, because what you are doing today in your days will inform what will become in future. Yeah, so you have everything, and I really want to support you and to work on your confidence. We are on the right way. We have the theories and the practices that could help us for a better future, and we have we don't have them anymore because we solved them, or we worked on them, but you still have very severe problems like climate catastrophe, pandemic. You have to work on nature, on your relation to the environment, because it's only a question of all these pandemic catastrophes. Go ahead. You really have all the right things to make the world better. Yeah, and yeah, thanks.
Thank you again, Fanny. So now we're gonna take a short break, about 15 minutes. We will take some time to relax, and we'll be back. I will send a reminder for you to be back in time.
I understood that the helicopter was going to the other building. Is that what you understood? I thought it was islands being connected, but
Okay.
we're like a transportation device, not like a rescue device.
Okay.
But maybe
Am I the only smoker in the smoking room?
It looks like you might be.
Karina, is it really your birthday today?
Yes.
Okay, happy birthday again.
Thank you.
I thought I was being tricked, but it never harms to wish people happy birthday.
It's true. But it's also true that you have to believe.
would this be the only smokers room, or are there several smokers rooms?
I'm not sure actually. Did you choose to go to this one, or were you like brought in, or?
Like you get an invitation, and I think then you just can make the choice.
Yeah, okay.
Go
Yeah.
and not to go.
Yeah.
the silent Elon Musk. It's nice. And she will get us back, right? Or do we have to get back by ourselves?
Mentioned 15 minutes.
Yeah, so I guess we might be called back. Yeah. Does Elon Musk have something to say about the presentation before, or?
I'm not sure.
Speaking bird language. Is this the bird of you, Tillman?
The least scary future I can think of is one where we have at least democratized AI.
Is it night in the background, Frank van de Ven? Are you in the night? In
Yes, I
another-
am. Yeah.
Okay.
Different time zone.
Which one?
Australia. And you, Simon? Simon?
Brussels time zone.
As a reader of science fiction stories, I was wondering if she was not taking incredible risks by going back to the future and informing us about the utopia that we could end up in, because now the course of history might be changed and we might end up in a completely different future after all. Maybe I should have asked that, but that was not the instruction that I received. So I can posit it here now. If anyone has any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess.
I felt for me it was a bit simplified to say that a critical attitude doesn't help in going forward. And I think I know what you meant as in wanting to get into this very active hands-on mode, but I don't know. I must say the moments when I was in a critical mode, they don't they don't differ from me being able to do something. So I don't think.
But what for instructions did you got for the being an audience? Because I got instructions to just be an audience.
I got an email saying your role is to be a member of the audience, and then I got this whole question that I needed to ask.
Okay.
Well, I had to read it 3 times before I understood it correctly. So I was already happy that I could still relate it or recount it. But then I did think in the end that the question made sense. So it was actually a very good question to ask. I just needed to study it a bit before I understood it.
Perhaps I allow myself to give an answer to Marlena as Professor Dr. Fanny Cybert. I don't, yeah, you are now, as if I remember my own past in this period in digital cultures, where critique really became only like hate speech, even in science, in my own domain about the humanities. We stopped writing big books. We just started to make short theses. Who is the best? Who is the most intelligent? So it really became a phase of criticism. As I explained, people trying to be very intelligent and cynical, and to lose the ability and the competences to do a good kind of action, of doing things. And therefore, I very much changed my own attitude and my own research into this research on affirmation. There had been scholars in my past, in your time, who worked on it brilliantly and explaining us that we have to stop this criticism. And then it's a completely different attitude to the bird. You are not looking for the bad things, but you are thinking like a resilient personality. How could I deal with a situation? How could I find it as a creative moment to find solutions that I couldn't come to if I'm in this critical mode? Oh, it's also bad and there's a problem, but to see, okay, this is the situation. What could I do? How could we bring us together with other people and then come to do things? This is really, it's due to the situation of critique in digital cultures, which really became a very only in excess, in affects, stopping arguments, and then yeah, therefore it's in our times and in your future, it's another attitude, a really completely different being in the world and with the world. So we have to leave the breakout room, if I understand it correctly. So see you.
Yes, see you. But thank you so much. I would like to reply later, maybe.
Yes.
I do want to say something.
Hello. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're now moving into the second part of this event, a conversation with Simon Asencio. In your video now, Simon. So, where are you?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thanks for having me. Hello, Jessica. How are you?
Hi, Simon. I am very well. Thank you.
Maybe if it's okay with you, I could start by asking some questions and we see how the conversation unfolds from there.
Sure.
Perhaps, could you introduce yourself?
Yes. I basically perform jobs for different people.
Do you mean that you do different kinds of jobs, that's how you describe yourself?
Pretty much. I exist through my work.
And so how do you relate to the question of practice or practicing jobs?
The practice of many jobs as a job, I guess, is part of today's work culture anyway. So I can't say much about that condition that people wouldn't already know. A Lithuanian curator once wrote that subjectivities are like jellyfish, traveling from one body to another, molding into any shape. But also in English, we say that a person is jellyfish when they are easily influenced. I like to keep these ideas close to me when I think of what I do.
All of your jobs are contracted. It is what establishes your existence, right?
I appear the moment the contract is set. The contract is based on the transfer of rights. The said Jessica gives all the rights of the performed services to its commissioner. And so, once set, the commissioner acquires the performance of the work for perpetuity.
A few years ago, I went to a concert by Lady Gaga in Brussels. It turned out that it was actually the shooting of her new music video clip disguised as a concert at Grand Place. At the checkpoint, there was a sign which said something like, "By passing this sign, you hereby grant all permission to your likeness to appear within the video clip in any and all media, worldwide and in perpetuity." I remember this strange feeling when crossing the checkpoint that all of a sudden reality seemed as if it was scripted, that we were all playing a role, the role of our life, but that life wasn't ours any longer. It now belonged to Lady Gaga's new production.
It makes me think of this moment in Deus Carax's movie Holy Motors, when Oscar, the main character, admits that his business is changing and that he misses the days when he was aware of cameras recording him. It becomes indeed much harder to know where the film set is nowadays. It has all become blurry, more implicit, maybe.
Do you mean that you lose the sense of where capture starts and ends?
Yes, it gets hard to always feel natural. I love this quote by Donatella Versace. Natural? I don't even know what my natural color is. What is that? For me, natural has something to do with vegetables.
So to go back to what you were saying before, the commissioner doesn't employ you, but acquires your work. What does that actually mean?
They just have it. They own it.
But is it work or is it a performance?
Have you heard about these places called practice enterprises?
No, I haven't.
They are virtual companies that are run like real businesses. The employees simulate normal business procedures and services, but everything is fake. The work you do is real, but all your actions are void. It is normally used for people that have been unemployed on a long run to keep them busy and to maintain the performance capacity. Usually, also there is a coach who takes care that everyone performs their job correctly. But the coach is not the boss. The boss is performed by an unemployed person. At this stage, I don't know if these people make any difference between performance and work. For them, it all seemed very real. Have you watched the last Blade Runner?
No, I didn't.
It is not super good compared to the first one, but I liked this moment when Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford meet in Las Vegas. They are having a drink in the casino, and Ryan asks Harrison if his dog is a real one. Harrison replies, "You can ask it." I wonder what the dog would answer.
Okay, but so what you do is more like invisible labor, work that goes unnoticed. Is this how you describe your work?
Sometimes things are unnoticed because they are considered obvious, and so they escape recognition. We call them invisible, but they are actually the ones holding the visible. They fill up the gaps.
But at the same time, Jessica isn't just about filling in, right?
Indeed, this is how Bruce Lee would put it. I say, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. You put water into a cup. It becomes a cup. You put water into a bottle. It becomes the bottle. You put it into a teapot. It becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Mm. Can you tell me about some of the jobs you've done?
Once I was a runner to pick up a package. Another time I was a tree in a dance performance. I have been a substitute of a curator for studio visits, a guest list manager at a fashion show, a light technician with tattoos on the arm, a timer, a voicemail. I was also hired by a gallery to be a human press release for their coming show. I had to deliver information about the show in conversations during other events. I have been through quite a list of jobs so far. Whatever the job is, the task description has to be very precise. Once I happened to be a guest at a dinner, my commissioner had not been precise enough in the job description. What was I here for and the subjects of conversation I could have? I ended up performing as a silent guest during the whole dinner.
And how did it go? Did you fall out of character?
Not at all. I simply stuck to my task. But the situation of the dinner was for sure out of character.
And so how would it work if I wanted to work by Jessica?
I start by meeting with the commissioner who will acquire the work. We discuss the parameters of the work. What is the job description? What kind of outfit or special ability is required for the task? What is the date and duration of the task? What will be the medium of the task? If it's live or just images, if it's speaking, not speaking, or simply one-liner.
Seems rather precise.
I don't want to be creative. Limit is my material.
Do you get paid for what you do?
Always negotiated. There is no relation between the type of work, the duration, and the compensation. We decide together the in-depthness of the commissioner.
So what would you say you do for a living?
I never know what to write down sometimes, filling out those cards and things. Sometimes I write singer. Sometimes I write actress. Sometimes I write mother. It depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes I write entertainer, and I feel like that sort of covers all the areas.
Sorry?
Never mind. That was just from an interview by Madonna.
I'm a bit puzzled by this constant multiplicity. Do you always appear as someone else?
No more than most people. To me, it's a bit like fashion. We usually think of fashion for expressing ourselves. But fashion could also be there to become someone else, right? I am now thinking about the writer of the play Cheap Speech, Camille Roy, when she recalls a student of hers who started to experience psychosis and asks one day if characters choose their authors. The prospect of characters floating through the ether as they search for the right host is quite puzzling. Quite puzzling.
Indeed. What should we say? Where do characters come from?
And where do they go? Where do characters go when the story's over?
That one is a title, no? From this Spanish artist, Dora Garcia, isn't it?
Yes, the one with improbable meetings between characters.
Once I was in conversation with Mr. Filch, you know, from the Beggar's Opera. It was such a fun meeting.
I watched The Usual Suspects last week. I'm still very intrigued by the underworld figure of Kaiser Soze. Everyone has heard about him, but no one knows who he is. Maybe his name is just a license for several people. Is that the case with Jessica?
I can't speak for all of us, but if I were to speak for myself, I would say that it's not so much about hiding many people behind a name or a thing, but rather about oneself becoming many.
I see. Did you ever refuse a job?
No, mostly no. The only rule is that the employer cannot be the only witness.
Okay.
It is an okay job. You tend to do all kinds of things. It feels also a lot more concrete than when I used to work at film sets.
Extra, you mean?
Being an extra is probably the best job on set because it is the job with the least responsibility. All you have to know is where you have to be. Most of the scenes you are casted for are crowd scenes. The point is to act naturally. You just have to act very naturally. Sometimes you are in a big party and you have to pretend to be in a good mood. You can talk to the people around you, but you cannot make any sounds. They will add the sound while editing afterwards. And sometimes things can get very serious. Finding yourself in a hospital drama. You have to background in a waiting room. Just put yourself in the moment and just feel it, as if you would wait for bad news.
Is it what you used to do?
There's also another type of work that is called stand-in work. A stand-in is a bit like being a piece of furniture. You stand where the lead actor stands in between the takes, so they can adjust the lights, cameras, angles, all those kinds of technical things. The thing is that you don't have to look like the actor, but you have to be very similar to them in skin tone, hair color, height, and build. I once met the stand-in of Jim Carrey. They're very similar, but they don't look the same at all.
And how do people find out about you?
My work gets noticed through repetition. A bit like when you encounter a stranger several times in different situations on the same day. Either this person is following you, or you start to see several people being the same person.
Seeing the same person following you, or seeing several persons in one? This sounds like infused paranoia.
For sure. The practice of camouflage can be a bit tricky when you consider the idea of the self. The perfect assimilation with your surroundings can sometimes lead to strange behaviors. I have heard of some insects whose disguise is so subtle that they eat one another, thinking they are real leaves.
You always appear in context and events designed by others. Are you a kind of parasite in this sense?
I only exist by appearing in other people's works. True. I take these contexts as venues in which I perform the services I've been contracted for. It is a performance in the performance, or an event in the event. I like to think of Jessica as cameo roles of some stories that act in other stories. If that means that I am a parasite, then I might be one, indeed.
Some parasites are known to take the control over their host.
To me, it is all a matter of one's point of view. When it comes to symbiosis, the uses and abuses are mutual. But indeed, one sometimes forgets that the dog is equally domesticating the master.
But here we're talking about work.
Yes. In that regard, I would say that interns might be more influential than we think.
I'm not sure to understand what you mean.
The word sabotage comes partly from this wooden shoe that the workers would throw into factory machines to interrupt production during workers' struggles. To know how to sabotage, the worker has to know precisely where and when to put the sabo. A good intern is the perfect saboteur.
But really, so how do people find out about you?
Mostly they hear about it. They don't know precisely what it is about, but they know that I can do something for them.
Makes me think of dealers. They only have something if you want something.
It is an invitation to get invited, indeed. The intern, the sex worker, and the dealer have in common the practice of availability. They morph into someone else's desire.
Providing what is missing.
Filling in the gaps, indeed. I sometimes feel like a ghost whose existence is to constantly appear in other people's lives.
You know this X-Men character, Mystique. Mystique is a shapeshifter. who can mimic the appearance and voice of any person to adapt to the situations. She's a talented actress and a polyglot. Her mind is naturally unreadable owing to changing gray matter. Her natural appearance includes blue skin and yellow eyes.
Do you know this joke? Two guys walk into a bar. The first one says, "Hey, I saw a chameleon the other day." And asks the second, "He was so unprofessional."
I have another one that I have heard last weekend from a friend. Two guys meet in the streets. The first one says, "Hey, how are you doing? Long time no see." "Hey, yeah, good. I recently started a music band." "A band?" "Yeah, it's a quartet. We make rock." "Oh, wow. Yeah, we called it Trio." "Trio? That's a funny name. And who's in the band?" "It's my brother and me." "Okay. I didn't know you had a brother." "A brother? Who?" "Me."
I have another one. What do you get when you cross Bambi with a ghost? Bamboo!
Okay, so we're ending on jokes. Or I mean, okay, thank you for the conversation, Simon Asencio. I would like to open the discussion to everyone to share your questions, comments, and thoughts regarding this conversation, but as well regarding the afternoon at large. Perhaps you would have shared questions to everyone, or more specific ones to Fanny or Martina or Simon Asencio or Jessica, etc.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. Just a simple question, as I don't fully understand. Is this Jessica a real thing?
I think what Jessica might put at stake is that the very distinction between what's real and what's not real might be a muddled one and might actually be the problem if we keep asking it. There's something about always being late because you're always already done to, you're already shaped, or your desires aren't yours, or then what can you do with that body that you then have? Can your body suspend or counter anything? What's this force of this chameleon? It's changing, but it has probably already changed before we've even noticed. So prior to anything, there's maybe a form of transformation that is at the core of it. Maybe that's a bit what what I am, what Jessica I is. And so, so yeah, change, but then there must be something resistant too, because it would freak me out also. It is freaking me out. It hurts. Karina.
Yes. Hello, and thank you everyone for this afternoon. I would be curious to bring up the question of critique. As mentioned in the keynote, the position of critique is usually done through negativity. It is a process of reaction through antagonism and separation. I am wondering, how do you reflect on the idea of critique, as I sense different approaches at play here? Fanny, you speak about hyper-affirmation as critique, and it seems that Jessica used their body as the battlefield. When does critique start to produce positive horizons, and when does it simply reinforce the thing that is being critiqued? Is affirmation, intensification, or acceleration a way to go, and where is the hope in that? That's my question.
Thank you for that question. Maybe it has to do with like a norm, anti-norm logic. Like, so can critique be something that doesn't relate to such a logic? By which I mean, there is a thing that one would not want to be there, or one dislikes or feels uncomfortable with, or something like that. And then what is the corollary? What comes from there? What is its follow-up, which would then be something to say, okay, I negate that, or I don't know if it has, yeah, negation. Yeah, maybe that's negation, but at least it's like a resistance and an anti kind of gesture, and you say, no, I don't. And then it's a question like, how is that becoming legible, or what is its mode of appearance, or how do you engage in that? And I think maybe critique, the sort of critique one I would want would be, I don't believe any longer, given some kind of blurriness of capture, where does it start, where does it begin, as we spoke about earlier, then it becomes increasingly impossible to say this was an affirmative thing, and then now we do the negative thing, and then we've critiqued, and then we had a norm, and then we have an anti-norm. And so I guess rather than arguing for the former or the latter, again, I would say that's a false diet. It's something, yeah, that's it. Who else has thoughts around critique? Or any other thing for that matter. Do you have, Karina?
Martina said something in the smoking break about that that critique doesn't really stop you from doing anything. Like you can criticize, but you don't feel that critique is stopping you from doing what you want or what you don't want to do. And I think I agree with Marlene on that. I think Fanny has something to say also about this.
Yeah, as you see, I now I skipped the funnies, and because I need a position to speak on a different level. My form, so now I'm speaking as Martina. The form of critique that I choose for the funny performance is hyper-affirmation. Yeah, so I would think about critique more in a media theoretical way and more in a historical way, and then I have to look at digital cultures. How is critique constituted in our digital cultures? And there's a problem, I think. And then it's interesting that people come up with this duality of critique and affirmation and fighting against each other. People say we have to get back critique in its completely negative way. We have to find back revolution. And then there are people, yeah, no, we have like a whole concept of affirmation. And then I as Martina, I'm more interested in this historical situation, in this arguments. What is critique? Have to get rid of critique and come to affirmation. And I think this is more telling than than deciding. And I, as Martina, I have a real problem. I would like to come to something positive in a way, and I always fall back into reflection and discourse analytical approach to see what is critique for, because critique itself is already a regime. Affirmation is also a regime. To be always affirmative may be a problem, even if you can change perhaps difficult things or problems in a society. But yeah, what does it mean to be an affirmative person? What does it mean to be a critical person? So this is this would be always my way out of these questions. And yeah, there's for me critique as cultural technique is a way of this is now very theoretical, but for me critique is a way of mediation. If we look historically, then it comes up with Immanuel Kant in the Enlightenment century, in the 18th century, and so it's more about making an order, say this is good, this is not good, this belongs to this belongs to this, to make differences in the first step, and not no, this is the important thing, to make difference, to say this belongs to this or could belong, and not to say good or bad. Good or bad is a later a point of critique coming in the 1960s, for example. And if I took it like this, then I can look in centuries of where critique is changing. There's not one critique, but a lot of critiques. Then I see, okay, perhaps the formats and the techniques and of mediation are changing, because we are always in media, even when since we talk to each other, I'm in a medium. And then the question, am I talking? Who am I? Or am I constructed or made by language, by talking? And so I come into a disastrous moments of who am I? Where's the word? Can I get the word? Can I grasp the word? And so on. And then we have critique as mediation. And then I can look, which kinds of mediations are coming up. And then I myself can come to something like, perhaps we can change the forms of mediation, as Fanny Cybert explained, this holy kind of being like in drugless states and being so affirmative and in resilience and everything is so happy. Then I could start to think, perhaps it's not the end of the game to be resilient and to be happy and to be like bedazzled all the time. But
maybe that has then something to do with like the fact of that we read the world, but we start to distrust our own readings. So the question is, can we even trust a sense of reading the world?
I'm wondering here to bring the to bring this from the position of like a body worker, and then the situation of practicing from dancing or from performing or from acting. And so this idea of reading the world, it's also writing, and how it is writing the body, whatever that means. But this how it is also a form of practicing it is practicing a problem by putting it onto one's body, and then understanding how that is a reading and a writing, a doing and an undoing, but it's really a form of practice or rehearsing something, but as a forming. I'm thinking really about how it can be located in on the notion of body.
But I'm also thinking that my question lies around a production of a positive horizon. And I remember I was in a talk with in a relationship I had, and I was frustrating with something, and I needed an answer from this person. Like, I was like, can you give me a horizon? Like, can you give me a pathway to go? But this person did not understand this person did not understand the metaphor of that. Like, the discussion became about trying to understand what I am asking from this person. And I think, like, you can be a body and you can read and write in the presence, but how can your practice produce positive horizons in the face of a public, let's say?
I'm wondering, like, if I do believe that there's a need for creating imaginaries as an horizon, or something that there's a form of an outside. I'm wondering whether that outside should be produced within, like otherwise there's I might be wrong, but I have the feeling that then we rely on this idea of emancipation, of like breaking free from, or getting rid of, or exiting from. And I feel that maybe it's more about renegotiating with what is already there, or what is the given, or the situation, or the relation in which we find ourselves. And then the idea of an horizon could be an idea of something that is out there or not in the moment. So I'm a bit wondering about that question. Yeah.
In relation to that, I saw 2 days ago a movie by Korakrit Arunanchai and Alex Dvojic called No History in a Room Filled with People with Funny Names 5. And I don't remember the line, but it was a lot of ghost. It was a video installation. There was a lot of talk about ghost, and at some point there was a text that went something like that: within this, the ghost is within the screen, and it is making kinship with your unconscious. So addressing the spectator, that there is a ghost within that surface of the screen that is making a kinship to something that is within, but that is not your conscious you. And I found this very beautiful. Then I'm really sad because I don't remember the rest of the sentence. But like there was a follow-up. But yeah, inside, outside.
So this that you mentioned, Adriano, it's making me think about when I performed Jessica in Mexico City by the first time, and how sometimes when I was Jessica, the inside of me, which was like Paulina, of course, and the outside was Jessica. Like I could be what was inside but never showed through Jessica. And it was very calming when they were asking who you are, or what's your name, where do you come from, and just create this other inner creature that was in Paulina, but who could be Jessica. So there was a lot of ghosts that could take Jessica's identity.
Yeah, maybe I can add up to that of my experience of performing Jessica, which is finding out oneself in different situations and positions and tasks, and rather than only feeling formed by these situations and tasks and positions, starting to also form from there and produce change by calling it a performance. And I think the ability to slightly dissociate between maybe what the situation, what are the prerequisites of the situation, and how the situation is actually being enacted or played with, and whether to identify with what one is doing or actually to disidentify and through that find space or create spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, I feel it's very much about this practice of availability and how it relates to what is the affect that comes with someone else doing the desiring for you, because that was so something like, what does that mean, and what is the, can that reverse anything in terms of thinking about power when what you are doing is something, but something, it's like a doing that is actually nothing because it is happening to you. So it's like maybe you're not even trying or something, but then that becomes the doing.
Yeah,
On the
it's like this comment by Jessica about self availability when they say that they morph into someone else's desire, and yeah, exactly what you say, that this idea of someone is doing the desiring for you, or that your desire is done to you by another. And yeah, I wonder if you could say something. And yeah, how could it reverse this power play within it?
Maybe I can say something, but maybe Paulina and Jessica have another point of view. This practice of availability produce that people are in position of acting out or projecting their desire of what can Jessica do for them. And then through that, they already basically do much of the work by generating of what are all the elements and situation that needs to be there. And so all the content is there, and from there Jessica just has to pick up that content that is already provided and then just re-choreograph it. And through that act of re-choreographing or performing or acting or enacting is actually recreating the way of doing it, or finding their own path in doing it. And the situation of being a silent guest is very clear at the dinner, in a way that indeed the dinner has been very awkward, but didn't rely on the shoulders of Jessica having to make up for this this lack in providing the desire of what should be that Jessica in that specific evening. And so then it's just about like taking what is there and deciding for oneself what the performance will be, and then through that finding a lot of space in being a silent guest and making the rest of the conversation slightly strange, or no.
I just wanted to share that I found the past hour incredibly unsettling and creepy. Like, I really felt really dislocated from myself and from the whole group. And there was something about the, I don't know, the sense of dislocation of identity and also of roles. I just, yeah, I don't know, it was kind of dehumanizing and very weird.
I'm thinking of the use of camouflage. That it's both used by the prey for protection and by the predator for hunting. So maybe like an implicit question is, should we make a difference between intentional role play, like to extend oneself further through access to these devices and networks, and unintentional role play as a coping mechanism? Yeah.
I also wanted to ask a question. I don't know if everyone went to the Discord link.
Did you post it, or?
No, I think Jessica posted something at the beginning of the seminar.
Yeah, I can check one more time.
I don't manage to enter.
This one, maybe? But then you still have to go to the number 8, the session 8, or the channel 8 to for this event. Yeah, I would be curious to ask about the notion of role play and simulation and how all of these characters present relate to the idea of autofiction. And yeah, and I guess also auto-simulation.
I could say some stuff about autofiction, but I'm curious if we want to speak about what's happening there and about this Lotte Leeker.
Yeah, I mean, in relation to that also.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, but
yeah, maybe. Oh. I mean, Martina, do you want to say something, or I can also say how it felt for me, or?
I have the impression that it's not so. I hope that things speak a bit for themselves in a way. I hope.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering how, because I found it interesting, like for me, there's really a difference between the ones that are more zoomed in and that really seem studies or like almost documentation of aging, and then there's but then you also have the ones where you are really more coming into a character, and and then that's where I was interested in if we need the character to have the other one to have the to go there or to show, and if these are related in a way, if the character is also vehicle of visibility for things that are not normally visible or shouldn't be visible or are told or are thought to be not shouldn't be that they shouldn't be visible, and that was what I was curious about. And I guess that is often the strength of having an avatar or having a double as well.
Yeah, there was this question. No, I think Fanny was telling to Fanny that the avatars are like not finite, and then like that they are not bodiless. And then I think that is like how do we find also like also I'm just thinking of also how fast with the digital era with like this software's development where it's constantly on updates and to fight obsolescence, and how do we deal with also how we adapt or not, and who's like how different platforms are like organizing also who goes there, and how to the literacy on the medias and on the internet, and how this is also how do we which it's very generational also, and already we feel also a certain like how process development and aging is going on and being understood in digital platforms or digital world.
Yeah, it's a really interesting relationship, because I mean, you can maybe feel that you are sort of in the present, but then you actually already, through all the new platforms that pop up, you at some point you just notice, oh, their time is already moving forward, and you don't speak the language anymore. You don't know how many emojis should you use in that platform, because this is like people using it who are just a few years younger than you. Or who just, and it's very concrete in a way, because it becomes really about language as well, but also about just an amount of information you can take in, or as a person, because you also still have the backlog of all the other ways of speaking. And
but then I wonder like what that kind of threshold is, or that kind of limit is of, and this is how adaptable I'm going to be, and here I stop, now I block, now I halt, now I do. So I wonder like what the sort of mechanisms and or ideologies, or whatever you want to call them, are that that then make us define a certain limit as to.
But I think it's a lot about really also being situated, I suppose. I mean, I don't really know. I'm really interested in this question, like why is it so hard to communicate across these borders sometimes? Like, why is there, like, why do people sort of look back at maybe things that come up and feel that this is not adequate, or so. But then also the other way around, there's already the feeling that you have moved past, and I can't really. It's just this. It is a distancing situation oftentimes, and it's not. I don't know if this maybe also was different when people still more lived together across generations, or if it is different in situations where this is the case. Yeah. Which would then argue also maybe for different platforms and a massive amount of them. Or the question if this connects us, or if it drives us apart. Becoming fine-tuned in particular kind of spaces and in particular kinds of ways of speaking, and
it would be just a pity if we would have to create platforms for all of our differences.
It would be, yeah.
And it also comes to my mind the sense of how, because of the way we communicate now and the different media we use, that like we're more and more familiar to mediate relations rather than immediate relations. Like the face-to-face communication seems to be like sometimes like you text a person and he or she is with you in the room, but you prefer to use texting rather than talking. Or like even on a Zoom meeting or whatever situation on Zoom, you prefer to write rather than speaking because the image of the video sometimes seem overwhelming. But otherwise, we are like performing to our phone when we do like Instagram stories or TikTok. So how this way to relate to the digital self that we project also fluctuates in the situation that we are, and how it might be completely different to the way we like relate to people, as in like a real like what is real and what is not. But we do use the screen in a very different way, and we build relations in a very different way, and this doesn't mean that they are less valuable or whatever. I don't know.
It makes me think of something that, does it happens to you as well, that sometimes you think of someone and actually that person just wrote you like a SMS or on a messenger, or that this strange like, you know, like
Yeah.
that you think of some, yeah.
It happens to me all the time. Yeah.
That I think that this mediation it kind of also I don't know, it does something to us as well in a way, in a strange way that I cannot explain, but
like meta mediation or something like.
maybe we are approaching the end. If there's anything else that somebody feels like saying and I didn't have the space to say, then this will be the time. Then I would like to go. Please.
Okay, just a very short anecdote about Jessica. So this was my first day performing Jessica, and this is addressing the availability and the power relation in invisible labor. So I was there available for the people at this event to do anything they wanted me to do for the period of an hour. And they were so overwhelmed with the idea of giving me whatever task they wanted that they took so much time deciding which task Jessica should perform, that by the time they decided what I have to do, what Jessica had to do, it was like very late in the time I had given for them. So at some point they had the power for Jessica to do, like, walk the dog of the boss or clean the room or whatever, but was so hard for them to understand they had the power to do this, like to give me a task, that then I had the power to say, okay, like, your time is over. The task you have given to me will not be performed, right? So in the end, sometimes we feel that the person who's employing you has the power, right? So I was always holding the power, even though Jessica was afraid of okay, it could be whatever. But in the end, ended up being my time, and it was just to be available. And it was a very, very good first experience, I think. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone present today and all the thoughts and strokes that came up. If you wish to, the Discord channel is here to continue the conversation. Thank you again, everyone. All the best.